In the ashes of defeat, a boy rose from tragedy. He swore vengeance not just for his family, but for Rome itself. Glory, betrayal, destiny. Scipio Aemilianus. This is the rise of Scipio Africanus. Rome, 187 BC. The Senate chamber is thick with murmurs and the smell of heated wax. At the center stands a man once hailed as the savior of the Republic, Publius Cornelius Scipio Africanus. But today his name echoes not in celebration, but in accusation. A senator's voice cuts through the air like a sword. You, Scipio, stand accused of corruption and treason against the very republic you swore to protect. The room tightens. These are the same walls that had once roared with his victories. The man who crushed Hannibal at Zama, who secured Rome's supremacy. And yet now, the very city he saved has turned against him. His eyes, sharp but shadowed with years of war, meet his accusers. There is no plea for mercy, no denial, only a quiet question delivered not to them, but to history itself. Is this the reward for saving Rome? The tension fractures, the scene shifts. We are hurled backward in time. Dust, blood, the thunder of hooves. The year is 218 BC, in the shadow of the Second Punic War. Rome reels from catastrophic defeats at Trebia and Cannae. Carthaginian banners fly where Roman standards once stood, and among the chaos is a boy of 18, Publius Cornelius Scipio, kneeling at the grave of his father, a commander slain in Spain by Hannibal's forces. The air is heavy with the smell of pyres. His hand rests on the hilt of a sword, his voice almost a whisper. I will not let this be the end of our name, or our republic. This is not yet the general who would become Africanus. This is the beginning of a relentless ascent, a story of impossible victories, shrewd alliances, and strategies that would rewrite the art of war. But as history will show, every rise casts a longer shadow. What do you think is more dangerous for a hero? His enemies on the battlefield, or the politics in his own city? The Second Punic War had already carved deep scars into the Roman Republic. In 218 BC, the disaster at the river Trebia sent shockwaves through the Senate. A year later, the catastrophe at Cannae broke not just legions, but the spirit of an entire people. Rome had lost tens of thousands of men, its generals humiliated, its allies wavering. Hannibal Barca, the Carthaginian genius, seemed unstoppable. In the far reaches of Hispania, the Roman effort clung to life under the command of two men, brothers and seasoned warriors, Publius Cornelius Scipio and Gnaeus Cornelius Scipio Calvus. They had held back Carthage's ambitions in Iberia, securing precious silver mines and keeping crucial allies from defecting. But in 211 BC, tragedy struck. Both commanders were killed in separate battles within weeks of each other. The news traveled across the Mediterranean like a funeral march. Rome mourned, but for one young man, the loss was more than strategic. It was personal. Publius Cornelius Scipio, barely 18, received the word that his father had been cut down in the dust of Iberia. The grief was raw, immediate, but so too was the resolve. Standing at the family altar, he made a vow, not in front of senators or soldiers, but before the spirits of his ancestors. "I will not let our bloodline fade. I will carry this war until Carthage is on its knees." It was a promise that defied precedent. At his age, he was barely a man in the eyes of Roman law, untested in high command, and yet his ambition was monumental. Those close to him spoke of a strange calm in his demeanor, as if he already saw a path invisible to others. Within a few years, this vow would catapult him into a role no one had expected. He would volunteer to lead the campaign in Hispania, a theater most considered a death sentence after his father's fall. The Senate hesitated, but the tide of desperation left them little choice. Scipio would sail for Iberia, not as a boy seeking vengeance, but as a commander determined to bend fate itself. This was the moment Rome's fortunes began to shift, not with legions, not with numbers, but with a mind sharpened by grief and driven by an unshakable purpose. If you were in Scipio's place at 18, would you have taken command or walked away from the war? Do you think personal loss can make a leader stronger, or does it cloud their judgment? By the time Publius Cornelius Scipio reached the age of 25, the shadow of his father's death still loomed over him, but so did the growing legend of his composure and strategic mind. In 213 BC, he was appointed quaestor, a financial and administrative post, typically reserved for men older and more seasoned. Rome's needs were desperate, and Scipio was no ordinary young noble. As quaestor, his role was not merely to balance ledgers or supply legions. Hispania, Rome's embattled frontier, was the crucible that would either forge him into a commander or break him entirely. The Senate tasked him with preparing the next campaign against Carthage in Spain, a region where Rome's fortunes had already been twice shattered. It was a posting many considered cursed. His first months in Hispania were a crash course in survival. Carthage held deep influence there, not just with their armies, but with Iberian tribes whose loyalties shifted like the wind. Scipio understood what many Roman generals had ignored. Victory would come not only from force, but from alliances. He began meeting local chieftains, listening more than speaking, promising security, trade, and Rome's protection. Where other commanders had demanded obedience, Scipio offered partnership. At 26, the unthinkable happened. Rome handed him supreme command of the Iberian theater. It was an appointment born from both necessity and audacity. No Roman that young had ever been entrusted with such responsibility. His army was battered, his officers skeptical, and his enemies formidable. Carthage's generals in the region, Hasdrubal Barca among them, were veterans of countless campaigns, backed by seasoned African infantry and the fierce Numidian cavalry. Scipio's first trial was psychological. He had to win the confidence of soldiers who had watched commanders die in the same soil they now marched upon. Instead of grand speeches, he led by example, sharing their rations, marching at their pace, and training relentlessly. He restructured their formations, drilled them in rapid maneuvering, and instilled a discipline that bordered on obsession. His second trial was logistical.